All right. We're back. Would you believe, Rachel, that it has been a year? A year since we've recorded an episode.
I can believe that because I know why we stopped the last time.
Why did we stop the last time?
Football season.
that tracks. That tracks. Yeah. And it's a little ambitious of us to start at the beginning of football season, knowing that for folks that are just tuning in or forgetting, that is now my career of choice. I follow and cover the Seahawks of the NFL and travel quite a bit during the season, and I'm kind of busy, but you know what? We are back. And last time when we were doing the Nemhouse podcast, it was kind of this chronological deal where we were taking people through our experience with our son, Nathaniel, who has autism, and just our kind of disability experience, his experience as best as we can articulate it, in the hopes to kind of give parents some tools and also just feel like a reflection out there in the world that there's other people going through what they're going through and other people that are actually kind of enjoying what they're going through, although there's some challenges too. Now, we're going to take a left turn. Like the part of the reason I think we're both, me especially, but I think we're both excited to start again is Nate's now 21.
I know, which is crazy.
It's crazy. And we have to figure out what happens after school and the transition to adulthood, right?
Yep. And for people who don't know, as a person with a disability, Nate is entitled to stay at school until he's 22. In his case, he'll graduate very shortly before his 22nd birthday. So he has been in school, receiving services under the supervision and support of a team of professionals through the school district since he was 3. And that all ends at 22.
It is a cliff, right?
That's what they call it.
It is a cliff.
They also say it's when the school bus stops coming.
Oh, don't say it.
I know.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, so that's kind of the backdrop. And we've it's September now.
Mm-hmm.
We've got like a few months before this, like it's not even a year until this becomes a reality. And so the idea is you and I could use some structure to actually spend some time talking about things that we feel like we should probably be doing now.
Yep.
And the hope is that us talking through it together will help other people that are either planning it now or will plan for it in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole idea. I will tell you, Rach, you don't even know this. The patreon.com/Nemhouse, people have donated $400 already.
Oh, to our podcast?
To our podcast.
That's so nice.
And we are donating everything we get from the pod to a charity, which we haven't selected yet. And I think maybe like when we get to 1,000, we'll donate our first donation or something like that. But let's reset before we start the official conversation, who we are, especially you and your background and your expertise. And I'll fill in after, but let people know who you are and what you do.
Oh, okay, sure. I'm Rachel Nemhauser. Hi, Nate's mom, otherwise known as Nate's mom. I have spent the last 10, 15 years of my life, in addition to raising my kids and being the parent to Nate and his older brother, Isaac, I also have worked professionally in the disability field as a disability advocate and as a social worker supporting parents of kids with disabilities and supporting adults with disabilities. So I've spent a lot of the last 10 or 15 years immersed in this world from both a personal standpoint and a professional standpoint. So part of why it's good to know this is because I'll pipe in occasionally as we talk with little tidbits of facts or disability knowledge that I've accrued over the years.
And she will correct me on all the things that I'm wrong about, which are plentiful. And so I'm Brian Nemhauser, and I'm also Nate's dad. And my role in this is generally to get the privilege of being Rachel's husband and benefiting from all her knowledge, because part of why I was excited to start this series is even last night, going to bed, we're going through Nate's nighttime routine to get him ready for bed. And we're still pretty involved in it. Like there's a lot of, it's not an arduous routine, and it goes pretty well, but there's a pretty strong connection there. And part of our vision, we talked about in earlier episodes, is that eventually he will live outside the home, not because we don't want him here, but because we won't always be here. And he needs to be able to have the tools and the structure and the comfort of what that feels like, ideally before we're not here, right? Like he needs to experience that. And you've taught me that. And so it just got me thinking, like, there's a lot of steps that we've got to start thinking through about what has to happen between now and when he lives independently. That's not going to be when he, like, immediately after he ends school, but we need to start thinking about it now, right? Like Rach, how many times have you talked to educators or parents or other folks who have gone through this transition, and like, what's the general kind of advice or general kind of reactions you've heard people describe this portion of this transition period?
That's a good question. I mean, the parents whose kids are older than ours and who've gone through this before lament the loss of school for sure. They also, if you look 5-10 years down the line, their kids are involved in other things. So to me, that says that these are parents that worked hard and found other things, other ways for their young people to spend their time. But yeah, in general, I hear from parents, like, it's a loss to say goodbye to the years of school.
Yeah. And I remember the educators making the point as best as they could, as kindly as they could, don't wait for the end of school to figure this out, because it can really hit you. Like, it's like running into a wall. Like, that structure being gone, that aspect being gone. And for us and for Nate, he loves school.
Right. That's, to me, the hardest part, is that we know we're kind of on a countdown, like 9-10 more months or whatever it is, till when he has to say goodbye to his favorite thing. Mm-hmm. One of his favorite things.
I think it's pretty much his favorite thing. He loves the teachers. He loves being around his other students. I don't exactly know for sure all the reasons he loves it, but I do know he always asks, like, school today, like, during the summer, like, he wants to know when he gets to go back to school.
As we start thinking about what he's going to do next, I have been thinking about what it is about school, and I have some theories of what it is. And it's what I want to emulate or like try to recreate in a new setting. But to me, it's like I think school is a place of belonging for him. Mm-hmm. And it's a place where, like, they know him, they get him, they are prepared to support him, and he could just be his total self, and he is wanted there and comfortable there. And so I think, as we start spending the next year really thinking about where he's going to spend a lot of his time next, I want to find more of that.
I think that's right. And normally a well-run podcast and show would have, like, outlined what we're going to do for each episode and thought through the progression of how we'll cover thing in each episode. We're not doing that. Like, we're just not going to do that. That's, like, I think honestly, I think the goal here is to do this and capture it and help even one person out there that might value it. And all that stuff gets in the way of us actually finding the time to do it. So we're just the hope is the actual mess of getting from where we are now, which is a little bit done, to wherever we will get, hopefully a lot more done. Knowing us, we get pretty prepared for things. I do think we'll get there. It's just a matter of, like, we have to set aside time for it.
And I wonder if it would be helpful if we back up a little bit and explain what it is that we're preparing for, because I know we said school's ending, but I don't know if it's clear. So Nate spends, like every student, 6-7 hours a day at school. Unlike the average 21-year-old, when he's not at school, he requires quite a bit of support, like personal care help and supervision and direction to use his time productively. Our lives for the last 15-20 years have been built around that he spends 6 or 7 hours getting that at school. And so when school ends this coming June, that 6 or 7 hours a day where all his needs were being met somewhere else goes away.
Mm-hmm.
In addition, the 6 to 7 hours of him participating in stimulating activities and enriching activities and social activities where he's interacting with peers and with professionals who are good at communicating with him and supporting him, all of that goes away. So we are tasked with sort of replacing that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the other thing that would be good to help set the stage for folks, and then we'll just, we're going to talk through it. Like normally these episodes are us kind of sharing things with other people that we already know. You're going to hear us just talking to each other, trying to figure this out. It's going to be us having those conversations. We're about to get to that, but I thought it would be useful. Like we have some things already in place. So let's talk about some of what those things are. Some of the things that you've helped get set up already that for us might not think about, but other people might. Like, for example, we have a special needs trust in place for like, that's not about the transition necessarily to adulthood, but it is one of the things to make sure that he is taken care of. And oh, by the way, we thought our will as well was set up properly. And when we went to get it re-looked at, it was set up so that if one of us passed away, the other one wouldn't get anything.
Oh,
remember, it was going to go all to our oldest son.
Oh God.
So get your estate set up. But you've also done stuff for housing, for some of the other stuff. Let's just recap some of those.
Yeah,
things.
I mean the most present thing that he will likely engage in regularly. Hopefully he has, and I don't know if we've shared this since the last time we did a podcast, but Nate has a job.
That's a big one.
He's working at Pagliacci Pizza, which is just about a mile from our house. And he's working 3 2-hour shifts a week, which is amazing. And he has a job coach that goes with him for that. And the hope is that he will continue doing that and maybe even do more of it and do more of it without with less support from the job coach as he gets older. That's one thing that we hope will stay in place and will maybe even grow and continue to fill up more of his time and as he gets older. So that's one thing.
Real quick, not the Cliff Notes version. How did he get a job coach? What, like for people that don't even know what that is?
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, that's
probably a whole episode, but like
it is. But for him, his job coach is through his transition program, through a program called School to Work. School to Work is a King County program for students that are in their high school transition program and DDA eligible, meaning they're enrolled in the Developmental Disabilities Administration. It's a pretty narrow scope of who they support, but Nate is one of the kids that was eligible, and part of it comes with some intensive job training and job evaluations and assessments and help with finding a job, securing a job, and then helping do the job.
Okay, so for people that don't live in Washington state, check with your local municipalities and it's going to be different potentially in every state.
Yeah. In Washington state, if you're not in a transition program and you're looking for employment support, look for the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, DVR.
Okay. All right. So that's one, a job.
Okay. So that's one of the things that we have in place now that we assume will kind of transition to when he's out of school. Like I just made reference to.
And he loves that too.
He does love his job.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it is. He does really like it, and he's really proud of it, and he's doing so great there. So I mentioned DDA. Nate has been a DDA client since he was a preschooler, and the DDA is the part of Washington state government that's there to support people with developmental disabilities across their lifespan. So DDA, as he gets older, will play a pivotal role in paying for his care, providing his care, potentially providing residential services when he'd live outside of our home one day. That will all come from DDA. So that's a big part that we've sort of set the stage with setting up.
How long did that take?
Oh, I mean, so Nate became a client back, when he was 3-4 years old. And I called and said, okay, he's a client. We'd like to request services. And they said, that's great. We'll put you on a wait list and call you in 8 to 9 years. And that is how long it took, was about eight years. There is not currently an 8-year wait list, much shorter than that. more like a year or two it might take to get through the process beginning to end. But with like the federal shenanigans, it could get worse. But right now, that's about where it is.
Okay. I just wanted people to know that that one takes a little while.
It does. But even so, it's not too there. It's never too late to start getting it.
Yeah. Okay. So that helps.
So we have that set up. So theoretically, DDA services could pay for a number of things as Nate approaches adulthood. Would it help if I explain that a little bit?
Yeah, let's go through it.
Maybe it would help you.
Yeah.
Specifically.
Yeah, I always forget this stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead.
So as a DDA client, Nate has what they call aggregate funds. He sort of has a amount of money to spend. It might be like $5,000 or $6,000 in a year. And he and, us as his guardians and parents would decide how we want to use that. A portion of it is going to go to his job coach. So, and this is after school ends. A portion of it will go to, let's say, day programs, like a community center for adults with disabilities where he goes and hangs out for a few hours or for a few days a week. A few of those dollars might go to buying equipment or things that he needs around the house, therapeutic equipment. The point is there's a number of options of how you can spend the money. You have a limited amount of money. So if you do more employment support, you have less money for those day programs. Or if you spend the whole time in day programs, there's not as many resources for employment. So there's always, while we're thinking and planning, we're sort of having to, well, if we're doing more of this, we have to do less of that, or we have to supplement the cost of it somehow out of our pocket.
Okay. And what about the housing stuff?
Yeah, actually, before we say about housing, I want to say one other thing that Nate gets in addition to those aggregate funds. He's assigned a certain amount of hours a month of what they call personal care. They do every year a really extensive assessment, and he gets about 120 hours a month right now. When he's no longer in school, that will go up because he'll be home more and need more assistance. But that is less about recreation or enrichment or support and is more about like, what does he need to meet his personal care needs during through a 24-hour period. Personal care is things like dressing, eating, preparing meals, doing laundry, going shopping, that kind of thing. And right now, while he lives with us, all of that stuff is stuff we're doing. One day, like you mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, it will likely be someone else helping him with that stuff. So making sure he has enough hours assigned to him to meet his needs and making sure he is comfortable having someone meet those needs are all things that we need to be also thinking about. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to stay. I have some thoughts on that. But we'll wait. I want to continue just setting the stage. So
you asked about housing.
Housing is the other one.
Yeah. And I mean, I could go on and on about it. It's a complicated topic, but Washington has multiple models of the way people with disabilities might choose to live.
There's no longer anything called like an institution. There's not like a group.
Well, there is.
Oh, there is?
There are institutions in Washington state. There are 4 of them. That is off the table for us. But they're there. They certainly are, unfortunately. But the model that I'm sort of zeroing in on, and I think this is definitely something, maybe this would be a whole episode sort of talking about what the models are and why I'm leaning towards one over the others. But the one I'm really leaning towards is something called supported living. It's through DDA, and it's where he becomes a client of an agency who becomes fully responsible for his care. And he has his own home. He lives in his own home. He might live with his friends or his girlfriend or people or roommates who he doesn't even know, but he has his own home, and this agency is responsible for coming into his home and into the community and meeting all of his needs.
They don't purchase the home. They don't necessarily own the home, right? This is
who's they? The agency? No, the home is in the client's name. So it could be that we buy a home for Nate, or he might be a person who wants to go out and buy his own home. It could be he rents an apartment. His name is on the lease. It could be that the agency has a house with 6 beds and only 5 people live in there, and they're looking to fill the other. Mm-hmm. So Nate would move in and his name would go on the lease.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So you've gone through that. There was a process to kind of get access to that. And we've gone through multiple levels and qualified for all sorts of things. So we have some choices we can potentially make there, and we'll talk about that another time. Another thing that I would say that we have in place is Summit, which is a community center that's opened in Capitol Hill in Seattle, and is a place where it's literally it's a community center. So he's able to go there. They have programs that run on a regular basis every day. Right now he's going there once a week with a friend of his, and he goes for a couple hours, about a couple hours, maybe a little bit longer sometimes. That's probably another episode of just talking about non-work recreational stuff. And it has been a mixed bag there. And so we'll talk about that more, but having a place where he can be outside of whatever is his home and be social and be around other people is important. And that's part of the one arrow in our quiver, so to speak, for that part of his life.
Mm-hmm. Right. And we've been working hard the last few years to, it's a drive. It's kind of a schlep to get there.
Yes.
And, it doesn't, like Brian alluded to, sometimes there's issues, and we've had to work with the staff.
There are issues.
But we've been committed to it because we know this is about investing in him having, like I said, a comfortable place, a place that feels good to him, where he feels good when he's there. And that takes time. You can't just create that out of thin air.
Okay. I think all this is super valuable. There's probably more we could list. I'm getting antsy because it feels like a lot of buildup to getting to the point of where we just start talking.
Okay.
So first things first is maybe I want to get into immediately, okay, here's a vision of what I think we want. What is that together? And then what do we need to do to get there? Mm-hmm. There's another way we could do it, which is what's on your mind? What's on my mind? What would work for you?
I mean, I think starting with a vision is a really good idea.
Okay.
I like that. Can I say one thing?
Always.
One thing I learned early on in the disability world is there are 2 ways to plan a future. There's the way where you look at all the resources that are available, all the services I just listed. There's DVR, there's recreation, there's and you build a life around those services. The other way to build a life is what you just said. Envision the life you want. Create, plan for the life. And I want to be clear, this isn't the life we want. Build the life that Nate wants.
Yeah.
Center his voice, center his preferences. Envision the life that we know would be his dream life, and then think about what do we need in place to make that happen.
Yeah.
And so it's my temptation, because I spend all day talking to people about resources and services. It's easy for me to get stuck in the services loop, but I'm really glad that you said that you brought that up to start with the vision.
And I think the vast majority of this is the vision for him, but there's also a part of it is we have a vision for our future as well, and what will need to be in place for that to be possible. So let's just go through that. I'll start just by what I think would be ideal for him. May not be possible. Maybe things. We've talked about this a little bit, but honestly, senior living, the same model would be ideal for him. Someplace where there is a comfortable place for him to live with other, a number of a dormitory kind of experience with a cafeteria and a central where people eat and gather, and a lot of planned activities that he can opt into or not, that he has people there that he already knows and is friends with, and that they're doing some of the same things, and that has ability for him to get, rides to work and home, and that's just kind of his home base. And that's where he gets a lot of his social structure already built into where he lives. That doesn't seem like it exists.
No, it doesn't. I mean, what you're describing,
someone out there, go build it, please.
What you're describing is sort of what the institutions strive for.
Right.
And I mean, I think to understand why it's problematic would be like 100-year history lesson of,
don't want to do that.
No, I know, but a lot of institutions and other secluded sorts of arrangements like that started with really good intentions. In Washington at this point is you can't use Medicaid to pay for a place to live that congregates a bunch of people with disabilities together in one place. Like the rules really require, they want to pay for Nate and other people like him to live in their communities.
Okay. And so does that imply that there's private ones that do? So if you didn't use Medicaid money, there's another?
Sure. There are. I've heard of that. Not here, but I've heard of places that like they create like a safe community or a community where it's all disabled people living. I've heard of places like that.
So, I mean, that's like the ideal from my perspective. I've come off of that a little bit because you've shared some of that, but also, I mean, look, we've had experiences with him going to camp and some of that experience has been really good, but even some of the camps that are supposedly well-meaning, he's had at least one really awful experience and he's not verbal and he can't really tell us or express to other people. And it's rife with the opportunity to, for abuse, exploitation, all sorts of things. So annoying that people are like that, but I get it. So then like where I'm at now, and this could totally evolve, is that he lives in a home that ideally with a couple of his close friends that also want this, not because they're forced to, but because it's ideal for them too. That they have full-time care. And I don't know if that's 24-hour, but I think maybe the ideal would be that it's.
I think he requires that.
You think it's 24-hour? Okay. Yeah. Wow.
He can't. I don't think that it would be safe for him to be alone overnight if something were to happen.
Fair enough. Okay. So then that they'd have that. I really don't think living alone, even if he has support, is ideal. I think I want the social thing for him. And I think that also is a big part of like, it was a breakthrough this past year. We could start talking to him about living outside the house. He used to get very upset. We're like, yeah, but you could live with so-and-so and so-and-so. And all of a sudden quiet. And
you could take the cat with you.
Yeah, right. So that like he started to buy into that vision. So there's that. And then I think it's in this area, but I don't know for sure because my personal desire is maybe not to live here forever. Like I want, like we've talked about that. I don't know what that looks like. So that's kind of complicated, but I'm assuming at least initially it's here. And he also has all the services he's qualified for in this state. And then from there, I also, the only other thing I'd put into the vision is I'd like to get to the percentage of things that he needs someone else to do for him to be less. So like the personal care hour stuff, like we'll need to spend probably more time maybe just on this, but like he can already get himself dressed. We don't have him do that all the time because it takes a long time. He can get himself to bed. He doesn't do that because whatever. So like there's some things that I think are important, but maybe as we talk about them, I'll realize, whatever, that's not the most important thing. So like I'll pause there. That's kind of like high level.
That's your vision.
And that maybe time frame within the next 3 years, like roughly.
Yeah, I think that aligns with mine.
Okay.
For sure. Let me share my vision.
Yeah.
But to do that, I want to back up because I want to say that my vision for Nate doesn't differ very much from my vision for his neurotypical brother. Like when I think about both my kids and what I want for them, it's pretty similar. I want them to live in a home that they love with people that they love. And I want them to have jobs and careers that are meaningful to them and that they take pleasure from. And I want them to have a life outside of that home and that job. I want them to have like friends, a social life, hobbies, philanthropies they're passionate about. Like I want both of them to have that richness of a full life, that rich, full life. So when I think about that with Nate, it aligns with everything you're saying. I want him to, he has someone who he's really, really loves. Let's just say that he has a person he really, really loves, and he wants to live with this person. So we're going to do whatever. So my vision, if we're talking vision, is that he lives with this person because that's what he wants. If other people live there too, that's great. But I want him to live with this person who he wants to live with. I want him to have a home that is reflective of him. If you ever saw his bedroom, you would know what I mean. It is like the best room in the house. I wouldn't want to try to take a nap in there because there's like horror movie posters all over the walls and horror movie toys and things like that, dolls and creepy stuff. But it's him. It is his space and it is distinctly him. And I want him to live in a home that feels like that. I want him to have a job, the pizza job or some other job where he feels like he's contributing in the world.
Some pride.
And he takes pride in it. And his coworkers might be his friends or might be his just acquaintances, but they're positive in his relationships in his life. And then I want him to, outside of work and his home, I want him to have hobbies and recreation and things to do in a busy life. He's a guy who doesn't like a very busy life. So I also want to respect that building a life for him will also involve building in a lot of quiet time and a lot of downtime, which is not necessarily the life I would build for myself or would have at that age. I'm old now, so it's different. So anyway, that's the life I envision for him.
Well, and a big part of that is all of that happening independent of us.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's the rub is like he has that now.
Right.
But the vision is him to be able to have that without us and without school. Those are the two big changes.
But the without us is not just like, for anyone listening. That does not mean the expectation in either of our minds, I think. And maybe it's important to say that is the expectation is not like one day Nate moves out and we're like, woo, empty nesters. We've made it. Like I anticipate a very long transition period and I anticipate a lot of involvement and engagement from us. Like when I said a few minutes ago, this agency would ultimately be responsible for his care. That sounds kind of cold. Like I want to just like hand him off to an agency. I want to be there every step of the way. I want to ensure his safety. I want to ensure his comfort. I want to go back to being his mom and be less caregiver and more mom, which would be what could happen if another person is responsible for his care.
I generally agree. The thing I'd say a little bit differently is I'd piggyback on what you said about our other child, Isaac. Like, he doesn't need us to be hovering, and we take a lot of joy in the independence. And I think he takes a lot of joy in the independence. So I think that it is in his best interest that we are only as involved as we are needed to be. Right? Like, I'm not saying that we need to artificially rush anything or pull the plug on anything, but obviously, like, I mean, I love the kid. He's a huge, amazing part of my life and our life, but in centering this around what's best for him, it is not that he is as reliant on us for emotional, scheduling, everything else to be happy. Like, the vision in my mind is that he can have a fulfilling life without it being so reliant on our involvement.
I 100% agree. I think I just envision a longer transition period to getting there.
I haven't decided what that is yet. Like,
I don't think we get to decide. That's the funny part. Like, I think we know who gets to decide how long the transition takes.
The planner in me feels a little bit different in that. I feel like something without a timeline is going to fill. Like there's that rule in project planning that, things will fill the space that you give it. And so I'm not saying like, oh my gosh, by this time he has to have it done, but I do think we should pick some maybe aggressive or at least uncomfortable timeframes by which we want certain things to happen in order to force us to do things that otherwise, it is so easy not doing those things. Like, it's so easy to just like have him live with us forever until we're not around or able to. Like that would be the easiest thing. And anyway, so I'll get off my soapbox. So we'll make this episode forever if we don't start to get to a wrap up spot. So let me think about it this way and see if this works for you. Who are you texting? Who do you possibly have to be texting during our episode?
Go on.
Okay. So I think that there's this aspect of what do we think, like we could do it by timeline. What do we think needs to be done by the time that school ends? Like what do we need to have in place for him by that point, and then work backwards from that? We could think about it from a foundation standpoint. Like what are the things that are most important to that vision to make it possible, that without them, the rest of the stuff just isn't as important? And then figure out the steps we need to do to make sure the foundational pieces are in place so we can then build from there, regardless of how long it takes.
I think you're smushing together two separate steps, in my opinion. I think there's transitioning, there's like figuring out what's going to happen immediately the day the school bus stops coming. That first Monday when there's no more school and you and I have jobs and Nate can't sit here all day, every day indefinitely without things in place. So I don't know the timeline of that, but then step 2 is figuring out housing. I don't know that those things happen at the same time.
Where did you hear me say housing?
Well, when we're talking about this vision.
So that's interesting. So when I didn't intentionally not say housing, but when I said foundational pieces, that's not the first thing that comes to mind to me as a foundational thing. It is who he is living with is one piece. And then Rachel's microphone and coughing is my favorite audio challenge. So can't wait for that later. But anyway, that's important. I think foundational, like we could get all the housing in place, but if he's not with the people that matter to him, the vision doesn't happen. And then the other part of it is the life outside of work and what that looks like. I don't know how to go. I don't know how to go about crafting this life for him without that in place, where we've got a lot of these other hours outside of work filled with things that are meaningful to him. Like those, I think those are two of the most foundational pieces. And then yes, housing would be the third.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking of, I totally agree with you on all of that.
Okay. Do you have a preference of like how would you do this if you were just like, I wasn't involved and you were like, okay, what do we need to do? How would you do it?
Well, I'll tell you what I did this week is that I put a call into a day program to start to figure out what we would need to do to enroll Nate and start, in exploring that as an option. What I feel like that needs to be done between now and June is figuring out ways to fill his time. For Nate, and like I said at the beginning, a place that feels good to him, that feels comfortable, that takes time for him to get there. So it can't be that he does school, no more school, and then the next day starts a new place.
Right.
I'm looking for an overlap of like 6-8 months.
Yeah.
To start that as soon as possible, creating where he's doing less and less school and more things outside of school this year, so that when school ends, it's almost like we kind of barely notice it.
That seems like
exit.
ambitious goal.
It does seem like an ambitious goal.
It's a good one.
But I think it would be tempting for me to want to just like wring every last minute out of school this year, because we're so sad to see it go that we'd want to just take full advantage of it. But I don't think that's what's in Nate's best interest. So I think spending time exploring different other like recreational programs that are out there and helping him start to get comfortable with them this year is a really good use of our time.
Okay. And sorry for folks if you're hearing our dog barking in the background. We did our best. He's annoying. So he's so annoying. All right. Well, that's interesting. So I guess in like compartmentalizing some of this stuff, I've been thinking about it in terms of his personal care stuff and what do we have to start working on that allows him to be more independent and do things without us. Maybe that's not as important to jump on right away, but it feels like, to your point, it feels like it's going to take many months to get that. And it's kind of beneficial to be working on those while he's got school in place to some extent, or a schedule.
I don't know if there's going to be a popular sentiment, but I'm just going to say it. Nate, as far as I can see, is a person who's going to need around the clock care for the rest of his life. There's no shame in that. There's nothing wrong with that. Sure. It's just like who he is and what he needs. I feel like killing ourselves the next couple years to get him to do a couple new things by himself is good. Like, I think we should always be helping him acquire new skills and gain more independence. Like, I am all for that, but not under the pressure of like, he needs to do this so that he can move out. He can move out with needing help with every single step of every single routine. He already doesn't need that, but you don't need to be able to live independently and get through your bedtime routine on your own to be able to move out.
I'm really glad you said that. I also want to clarify, I'm less thinking about it in terms of doing the things himself and more the parts where he is reliant, like it's the connection with us, like bedtime. He is looking for us. He wants to hear our voices.
Yeah, he wants a lot of love, a lot of cuddles, a lot of reassurances
at that time. Mm-hmm. And so like an example would be, well, what would it look like if we started doing that over FaceTime instead of live? I'm not saying that that's what we should do, but like, I'm trying to think of ways to transition some of those super attached moments
that makes sense.
Into ways that are still like, he won't be scared and feel alone or disconnected from us when he does eventually. Anyway, that's more like in that
makes sense. I do take a lot of comfort knowing that he's gone to camp, sleepaway camp.
Sure.
He's been to sleepaway camp for 2 and 3 week stretches or 2 week stretches, I think. And he does great. Like he has certain behavioral challenges or whatever, but he doesn't suffer from homesickness. He sleeps well. I take a lot of comfort from that. Like, he seems to be in good spirits. It's stressful for him being out of his routine and being out of his comfort zone. So I think they see some flare up in behavior from that, but like, he doesn't seem to struggle emotionally when he's away from us, which I really appreciate.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's good. So let's do this. I think we'll need to reconvene and start talking about like, what's our first step? Maybe we'll get to that, or maybe our next episode will be about, okay, let's come up with a plan and figure out what we want to prioritize. But this has already helped me a little bit, just starting to think like what's on the docket that we need to be managing and what needs to happen earlier. And let's use our next conversation to kind of move that along.
Yeah. That sounds good. I hope this is interesting to people.
It may not be. If nothing else, it's useful for us and for Nate. Yeah. And my experience in these situations is there's going to be at least somebody out there that feels some comfort or learns something that is helpful for them and makes them think about, oh, I should start doing this. And again, just even hearing somebody else work through what they're having to work through, is just nice knowing that there's another reflection out in the world of what you're doing. So if people want, patreon.com/Nemhouse. It's always going to be free. So the podcast is free for everybody. If you want to support the show, by being a paying member, that's great. And as we said at the beginning, all proceeds will be donated to charity. We're not going to ever make money off of doing this. We just want to kind of help provide people with some hopefully helpful information. And we've gotten a lot of really, really great responses from people over the time that we've done this. So glad to be back with you all. I am Brian Nemhauser.
I'm Rachel Nemhauser.
And this has been another episode of the Nemhouse podcast. Take care, everybody.